how do we make the decision about who is going to make the decisions? I mean, it's very complicated. Welcome to the Aging Parent Trap X podcast and YouTube channel. I am Allison Newland. I'm the broker owner of Platinum Properties of Florida in the greater Tampa area. And I'm here with my two friends and colleagues, Nikki Flynn with Elite Preparation Services and Julie Cook with Generational Transitions. And we've already talked about how to empty out the parent's house in our previous episode, like downsizing 40 years plus worth of stuff. And we talked about why we're doing it, how we're doing it, and all those kinds of things. But really, we started to talk about the who does it. And I'm just going to drop it right there. And someone can just jump in because the who part that can be mind blowing because it's really not always an easy answer.
I agree with that completely. The who is never an easy answer because you have probably children, siblings who are trying to figure this out. And typically you're going to have there's the only child. It's not so much a deal, but you're going to have the oldest who normally is the take charge person, even if they're not close, maybe even haven't seen mom or dad in a while, they still want to be the take charge person. Then if you have somebody that's local who's seen mom and dad and seen what's happening, they're going to have an opinion. So you have all these different opinions on what mom and dad need, don't need based on personalities. And so, yeah, it becomes kind of a jumbled up situation.
It it does. And Nikki, you see it in terms of preparing in advance, which is really your specialty, is preparing
Mhm.
so that people aren't doing this on the fly, is to document that in advance if possible.
Yes. And that's part of the process, that when we go through and setting up the documents, we kind of nominate who that specific person is going to be that's going to be in charge of everything. So that way it's kind of a more streamlined, smoother process. But unfortunately, when there's no planning, it's kind of like a crapshoot. Like, it's a free for all. You're going to have the infighting. You're going to have the bickering. Mom wanted this. Mom said this. Dad said this. And that's where things kind of go awry. So if we can help prepare ahead of time and have the planning done in preparation of something happening, then we have that conversation. And then we can also talk to mom and dad and say, hey, maybe it's time to start going through some stuff that we've been keeping for the past 40 plus years and maybe downsize a little. Let's start strategically going through things. Or why wait till you're gone to give this said gift to a family member? Why not give it to them now so you can see them cherish it and be excited about it and really be happy, and you get to share in that experience while you're still alive. So it's kind of like, a double-edged sword when you're going through that kind of stuff, because we're trying to convince them to let go of some stuff. And while some are like, yeah, I don't want to deal with this crap anymore, some are like, nope, I'm never getting rid of it. I'm holding on to it. I can't get rid of that. That's sacred. That's precious. So it's kind of a two-way street sometimes when you're having to go down that road with them.
Well, I think, we talk about all of this is kind of happening simultaneously. Like we see our parents, our family members, in a certain light. They've always been, in good health and things have been pretty good. And then sometimes all of a sudden things change very rapidly and people have to take action and jump in. And that's happened in with clients of mine within my family. Everything's going fine, and then all of a sudden we don't want to live here anymore. We're scared to live here by ourselves. We need to go into assisted living or independent living where there's somebody that we can like press a button and get help. So, wow, they made that decision. Well, that's great. But now, we have to downsize your house and go through all this stuff, and somebody's got to take charge in doing it. And I like when you say, like, sometimes it's the oldest sibling, the oldest one. I haven't always seen that to be the case. I have seen where maybe it's the daughter that's closest to the mom who takes charge. I have seen that. Many times people are different places throughout the country, and there's not necessarily someone that lives close by. And that happened with a client of mine. And sadly, she did not go into assisted living. She had passed away, but they were dealing with emptying out the home. And I know two of the siblings came from different areas and started to go through it. But the other one, I think, was in Pennsylvania, and she didn't make the trip down. So two of them were kind of in charge. One was at least in the same state. But, full-time jobs and all that kind of stuff, and then having to deal with emptying out the house, they managed to get it done. But um, yeah, the deciding who um, can be very difficult. So I guess it is best if we can do it in advance. I
Mhm.
mean, I had no choice. I'm an only child. So I knew who the who was, and I was wishing that there was another who. I
At
really
least somebody
was.
to fight with, right?
Well, it's someone to split the work with. I mean, I hear about these stories of the siblings fighting about or just not even addressing. I think this is where it can get ugly because I've seen it from as an only child watching from like for family members, but also watching it as, watching clients go through it is I'm always thinking to myself, why don't they just tell how they feel about it? And they're just reluctant to say, hey, buddy, get your butt down here and give me a hand. I don't understand that. Just can anybody explain that? I don't get that. Why don't we do that?
No.
Usually it's because they don't want to cause any an initial trauma or drama with the other family members. And they might know that that one might be more of the sensitive one, or they might have a spouse, significant other that will cause headache and drama and they
Oh,
just don't want to deal with it. Or they could be a control freak. They just want all the control. They want to be in charge. They want to do everything and they don't want to delegate. So, I mean, you have a couple of different options, but I'm right there with you.
I
I
think
wish
it
I
causes
had,
resentment if people don't
yeah.
just go ahead and get it out on the table, that it causes more resentment long term because that one person who is doing all the stuff is like, well, I did all the stuff and you did nothing. It comes up at Thanksgiving and Christmas, I bet you.
100%. I think Nikki is totally right. I think it boils down to this is already stressful. I don't want to create any extra drama, but it's going to create resentment. So at some point you have to push past that and at least air it out. The sibling may be like, I'm not coming. I'm just not fooling with it. I don't want to, but at least air it out. Even if it creates some stress, if it gets you some help, it will probably be worth the stress.
Yeah, even monetarily, like you go ahead and you pay for the, I don't want to say a dumpster because that sounds, we're dealing with people's cherished items in many cases, but that's not what we're talking about that goes into a dumpster. But there are costs associated with emptying out a house, right? It's going to cost you
Mhm.
time for sure, and it's going to cost you money with the things that you cannot have donated, picked up, whatever. You might have to get someone to come there with some sort of trailer. I've seen people rent those things from Home Depot. They're like bucket bag kind of things, and they put them in the driveway, and the stuff that they don't want or can't get rid of, or where they put it in there, and then somebody comes and picks it up. There's a cost associated with that. So maybe that person can be the person that maybe contributes financially to that. But I know everybody's situation is so different. But do you see why we're talking about this? Because if we're having this conversation from just the little bit of experience that we've had personally, and then of course professionally, people are talking about this. Bob didn't do his share. I had to do it all. It's like,
Yeah, rarely ever do I ever hear somebody say like, "Oh, my brother and I, we were able to, just work together and everything was split equally and we had no problems." Rarely does that ever happen.
yeah.
It's in a magical dream world, maybe, but unfortunately, it's something that's not, and that is why we always try to make sure that our family members have planning done ahead of time so that way it mitigates all of that and you don't have to worry about the headache and the drama. And then we have those conversations. You need to sit down with them and say like, "Hey, mom, dad, do you have a plan for this stuff?" Like I told my mom, I have no shame in my game. There is a dumpster that is getting put out front and
Ah!
things are being dumped. This woman saves the
Oh,
original box that the things come in.
yeah. No.
Okay. She's got receipts and stuff from like before I was born. Like there's just no need.
And that's in that storage unit.
Hmm.
Boy,
And I have come across my baby stuff. First of all, I'm in my mid 40s. There ain't no child happening. My husband and I have made that determination. That ship has sailed. But you might have a kid someday. Can we let this go? Can we?
No,
Because it's not happening. So
no.
why are we saving? I don't want it. Why do that's not a memory of me the day I was born. I don't remember it. So why do I want that stuff? Like, I don't understand. And it's a lot. It's a lot. I've already gone through one parent's house. I don't want to like no a dumpster. I learned my lesson. Dumpster.
Dumpster.
She just cuts to the quick. See, that's a
Yep.
sibling needs somebody that just tells it like it is.
We need you
Yes.
just
Or
to come with us.
Yeah.
You
yes.
need to start a new business. Not only does Nikki do document preparation for all of your will, trust, and power of attorney needs, she'll also be the lady that comes with you and says, let it go and put it in the
Let it go.
dumpster.
Yes. Yep.
She will come with a dumpster and say, "Come
Yep.
on."
Yep.
She
Yep.
will.
Yep.
It'll be Nikki's roll up, with the big tree of life on it on the side. That's a new logo. It'll be coming to the people that watch this soon. You'll be able to see that logo somewhere soon. But maybe on the side of a roll up. I mean, and again,
I
if we did not laugh about these things, we would be crying all the time. And
yes.
let's just, it is
Mhm.
okay to talk about it and to kind of poke fun at it at the same time, but also to know that you need to have these conversations and to do it in advance is a lot better. And you don't, listen, you don't have to be the boss of the show. You don't have to be. Somebody's going to help at some point. I believe that, but you gotta you can't let one person do it, in my opinion. But what if somebody doesn't have, like me? I knew it had to be me, right? So that was that. So an only child. I mean, I have seen houses, sadly, where stuff was just left in the house, photos, personal things. I'm not talking about the furniture and stuff, but it was like heartbreaking to see the
Mhm.
amount of personal stuff. And I looked for like, who could I contact? Wasn't my job to take over that, but my heart was like, these photos might mean something to somebody, right? Before
Yeah.
this house transfers hands. And the new owner ended up buying the house with everything in it and then had to dispose of stuff afterwards. And they felt bad too, but there was nothing that we couldn't figure out who. She didn't have any living
Mhm.
relatives, is what I'm saying, right? That
Mhm.
we could find. And so when someone doesn't have children, someone's not married. I mean, let's just say a lot of women, right, are now like they're getting rid of that first or second husband and they're living on their own. They are. And the kids are grown or gone, or maybe they never ever had kids and it's just them and their pet. Well, and you have to make arrangements for this. So who do they get to do that?
So that
Who
it's
helps them?
usually like it'll be a friend, a close neighbor that they're buddies, they're partners, or sometimes I've even had people nominate their churches.
Right. And so
Mm.
they can even set up paperwork in advance for that kind of stuff.
Yes. Hmm.
So that
Yep. So they do have that option.
That's interesting because when we talked about who can help, the normal thought process would be, okay, if family is not going to step up, then, are you connected to a church? Do you have friends? Do you have neighbors that can help? But that's interesting that they can actually designate that they want their church to assist, help clean out the house. That's interesting.
Well, if they're leaving the estate to the church, then that's part
Oh,
of the responsibility of the church is to carry out that final wish to make sure that that is done.
if you need help preparing those documents for that kind of situation, Nikki is awesome and she can do that for you anywhere. You don't have to just be in the greater Tampa Bay area. She's able to help you all throughout the country. Julie, of course, helps families find senior living facilities, and I help people deal with what to do with the family home after mom and dad have moved out. And our contact information is in the description below.